Today we are talking about the GOAT manga publisher, which makes me laugh because apparently a lot of the things I really wanted actually came out in 2025 or were licensed to release in 2025. So actually there's some struggle for today's prompt of all things. Hello friends, happy Wednesday. We are continuing the video series of me spotlighting my top 5 debuts from each manga publisher, and this week is 7 Seas. I am so excited. I have gotten so many personal wins from 7 Seas that they are just, I can't help but call them the GOAT because I love everything that they're, well, majority. I love majority of all of the shoujo licenses that they have been giving us. I mean, they gave me Glass with a Chance of Delinquent, so that in itself was a huge win because that was one of my #1 top. When it comes to actual licenses, that was my #1 license. I think I've loved That's Understatement, which got physically printed, and I've wanted that print forever, but you know, we haven't had any updates about that. So hopefully here soon we will actually have some. But yeah, let's talk about 7 Seas and what I feel are my top 5 debuts from them of 2024. Again, I sort of struggled with this prompt a little bit because I realized with all the things that they licensed and released just last year, which was a lot, that I didn't really seem to check out a lot of newer series from them, or at least it felt that way. I did see a few that I had tried but didn't connect with and decided to let go. For the first one, it wasn't an issue of connecting with it. It wasn't even an issue of letting it go because I disliked it. It was for a different reason, but I still want to feature it on this list even though I don't have the series anymore. And that is, for #1, True Love Fades When the Contract Ends. And I'm talking about specifically the manga. Volume 1 was amazing. It's about a young woman. Her name is Fiona, and she is in this position. She's very independent. She helps, I believe it's her uncle, run not an art where like they sell art, but she is I cannot think of the word for the life of me. I even tried Googling it. She's not an art critic, but basically she sees if this is the real piece of art or if somebody's making a knockoff, more or less. She loves what she does so much, but she finds out from her dad that he's secretly arranging an arranged marriage for her to the young man I believe that she grew up with. She has nothing against her friend here, nothing against him, but she doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to have to put off her dreams, her independence, to be a married woman and be what she's supposed to be as this housewife. She does not want that. So when she goes to like this ball of sorts, she goes there and she meets or overhears another young man, a bachelor. His name is Giles. Come to find out, he also doesn't want to get married due to certain reasons that he's like, I don't want this. But all the women are wanting to be engaged to him because he had a really high rank in society. Well, they sort of bump into one another. Something happens and she finds herself at his place the next day, returning something, a piece of, I believe it was sort of like a button that had fell off, and so she wanted to give it back to him because she sort of held this power that she could have used this button or this article of clothing and made it seem like, well, they're engaged now, when he definitely didn't want that. She didn't want that. So a proposition comes up, thanks to Giles' best friend, of them saying, why don't we just have a fake arrangement here and say that we've been in love and now we're engaged so that we don't have to give up the things we love and become an actual married couple. You probably know where that's going because, yeah, they're going to end up actually having feelings for each other, though Fiona doesn't recognize her feelings yet. And that is sort of the premise for Volume 1, and I deeply, deeply enjoyed it. I decided after Volume 2 to let this series go, not because it was bad and I feel sort of like a fake for mentioning my top 5 debuts and then not having it anymore, but there were just too many other things that I really wanted more. And I've shared before in this channel that I'm not one to typically hold on to manga that I'm not willing to keep pre-ordering new volumes. I definitely do have an exception here or there. But with this series, unfortunately, it wasn't one that made that cut, despite that it was really good. And that's the reason I wanted to say that I do feel it's in their top 5 debuts because it had this historical-like vibe, and I typically don't read a lot of that, not because I'm not interested, but for some reason it just feels harder for me to find like historical shoujo fluff than say like a deep historical seinen read or some kind of, I think of The Elusive Samurai, which has a lot of historical vibes, but it was too bloody for me personally. I didn't need to see take out this pig and there be blood splatters everywhere. No thank you. That's just not my cup of tea personally, even though the story itself was very interesting. But yeah, when it came to shoujo, it just felt harder for me to personally find. And so when I came across this, and I felt like translation really gets you just into this world that makes you feel like you're in another time period. But honestly, the person who stole the show was Fiona. I love that she stuck up for her independence, that she took matters into her own hands. She says that she feels like She's in this golden cage where, yes, her father deeply loves her. He has given her so much time. Like we see this, like, and her say this, he's given her so much time to do the things that she loves, to pursue art and want to travel abroad. But her dad really just wants her to settle down and just be a wife. And that's the one thing she doesn't want. Not because she's anything against being a wife per se, but how it was in this world and society. You gave up those things. You gave up those desires. And she really didn't want to let that go. So I really loved how she just took matters in her own hands. And though shout out to Giles' best friend for help orchestrating this to even happen, because it wouldn't have otherwise. But I really do love too, when it comes to the romance, even though Giles is like, yeah, I don't want this either, that he starts falling for her super hard. And she's just like, don't you think you're a little bit too close for fake engaged here? He's like, oh no, I'm just trying to, convey to other people that I really care for you. When he really does mean those words with sincerity. But Fiona here, she don't realize. So I really just felt like this was a sort of groundbreaking read in the sense compared to other titles I've read. This really stood out for me. And I've been very happy to see so many people who've read the light novels and have continued to enjoy it. I know Volume 2's out. I don't know if Volume 3 was ever released or if I know it's still ongoing, but I don't know if like it came out yet. I honestly don't remember. So I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a strong, independent woman who's just not willing to compromise. I mean, she wants to be there for her family and she wants to make her father proud, but at the same time, she's like, why do I have to give up these things I love simply to be a title or be something her father imagines her to be? Also, if you want that historical like setting, and for the romance, if you want, the fake lovers, but also the trope of he fell first and he also fell harder, then this manga definitely meets all of that criteria. For number 2, I have talked about this one. I know I just talked about recently for Volume 2. That is Reliving My Life with a Boyfriend Who Doesn't Remember Me. The overwhelming angst of this series. I can't believe I love this series as much as I do. I read Volume 1 and then I went back and reread it again because it just surprised me. We have this young woman here. Her name is Oriana. She's a 17-year-old young woman. She's at this school. She's happily living her life with her boyfriend here. But then a tragic accident happens. We actually don't really know, but her boyfriend, he's not alive. She is trying to go get help, but something happens to her. She also ends up dying, but time sort of rewinds and she goes back, to her 7-year-old self with the memories of everything that happened in the future. And she's thinking, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have a second chance to date my boyfriend again. I'm so excited to see him. And she works really hard for all that time to meet him again at this school, only for him not to remember her. And she is crushed. She is heartbroken. But rather than just stay in that heartbrokenness, she's like, I'm going to do everything I can to make him, encourage him to fall in love with me. But he is pretty grumpy, a little bit rough around the edges, and he's just not here for it until maybe the very end. But we won't go there because that could lead into spoilers. But this volume really blew me away. I don't even honestly remember why I decided to pick this up, hearing that it had some major angst, but the cover is just beautiful. All the covers, honestly, are super beautiful. But I decided to give it a chance, and I loved it. I have heard a lot of people were very pushed off by Oriana. She is very pushy in making her feelings known for her man, that she tells him, I love you, I'm here for you, I'll do anything for you. I mean, and despite that he's telling her, no, get away from me, I don't want you near me, you're being too pushy. And I could definitely see a lot of people being turned off by that, because I did have at least one friend that said, I know, she crossed way too many lines for me to feel comfortable with, and I totally respect that. I feel like Oriana, while she did push these boundaries or these lines where he's like, can you please stop? It just felt like because we know everything, the heartbreak that she is feeling, I'm not going to say it made her actions justifiable, but I wanted her to succeed. I really wanted to see her be able to convince her boyfriend how wonderful she is, how much he loved her, despite, again, that heartbreak that's in her heart and him just not seeing or knowing everything that happened. It was devastating when she comes and he is like, you have the wrong person. Right here, he's like, my apologies, you have the wrong person. And she has just worked so hard up to this point just to see him again. She has visualized and dreamed of being in his arms, of him telling her that he loves her, for none of that to happen. but yet she still is a strong young woman who is still determined to help him, even when he's like, you're useless here. That she's hurt by his words, but she still keeps trying. There was just something so powerful about reading that kind of story. One of my favorite scenes is when they are choosing their branches in this place, and I'm trying to find a good picture of it, but they're finding their branches, and even though he is discouraged because he can't find his branch, everybody's finding theirs, she still, when he says stay away from me, she still goes out there to go help him because he went solo and he wasn't supposed to do that, and so she helps save him. And I will say that if like it seems Oriana, it's just her pushing and he really has no interest in her, there are parts in the manga where you genuinely do see he's thinking about her. He's thinking about her smile. He's thinking about how cute she is. He is just sort of in denial, it feels like a little bit. Again, maybe that sounds like I'm putting Oriana on a pedestal in a sense, unintentionally so. It's her story that is so compelling. I just felt like my heart was crushed over and over for her, and I couldn't help but just cheer for her. Even I'm like, oh, that was really hard to read, but I'm like, don't give up. And she doesn't. And volume 2 was just as good as volume 1, though volume 2 was more heartbreaking. Didn't appreciate that. No, I didn't. Also, the art is really, really beautiful. I do believe that we have, oh, this chick, I really like her. I do believe we have the light novels digitally, and I've heard everyone say that's actually read the light novels that, oh, this was a really funny scene, but I've heard everybody that's read the light novels that they preferred the manga than the light novel, so I guess that's just something to note, though if you want to read the original source, you totally can. But yeah, it was fantastic. I really, really loved it. I would highly recommend if you're looking for a shoujo fantasy that has that angst, that you want that heartbreak, you don't want an easy walk through the park of happy cheerfulness. No. Granted, there's some moments where there's some humor and there is some cheerfulness, but Oriana is working so hard and you're really seeing her struggle. Like there's scenes, one specific scene where she's just at her window and she has her hand raised up outside and she's like, if you could just hold me and just encourage me, it would all be okay. But the reality of right now is he's not doing that, and she's got to deal with this pain and face this pain on, and that's exactly what she's doing. So I've loved this series. I have mentioned that I gave my volume 1, I think volume 1 and volume 2 to a friend, and then I ended up rebuying it because I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and it was definitely one of the best decisions I made concerning this manga. I'm so happy to have it back in my collection, and I've reread it again since. I mean, I've read both volumes at least 2 or 3 times, and I'm eagerly excited for volume 3, though please don't let my heart break as it has for these first 2 volumes. For number 3, I knew for sure this was going to be on this list after I read it. Hopefully I could say it right, and that is Horori Hote First Kiss. This is by the same creator as Fall in Love You False Angels, which I finally have, and finally have on my TBR pile out by my desk. I should have brought it. It was like delayed like 3-4 days, and I was just like, why? I'll follow the manga. But anyway, this is a story of, or this is a collection of 4 short stories all centering around these couples having their first kiss. This was absolutely delightful. Each of the stories are very different, very unique, and of course I had favorites. My favorite one was the delinquent-like guy because he just has a heart of gold. I really loved him, plus she was sort of tundra, maybe? Maybe that is the trope that she is sort of living out because she's sort of grumpy, but she got a little bit of a soft heart and does care for him. I loved their love story so very much. I mean, I liked all of them. The first one was really good. It was about a art student that does calligraphy. The second one was about the delinquent and the grumpy girl. The third one was about this couple here. I don't even know what to say about them. It was definitely the funniest story out of the collection and was one of my favorites because she sort of got a little bit of a dirty mind, I guess you would say, and though not necessarily, I wouldn't go as far to say it's perverted, but she really wants to kiss her boyfriend and she likes thinking about those things, and when they happen, she gets really excited. Hopefully I did that story justice because, again, it is one of my favorites. And the last one was sort of about not 2 childhood best friends, but they were rivals in school, so to speak, and they went to school together. They even went to the same high school together, and both of them have had a crush on each other, but neither one of them has ever admitted it until in that story. So again, all very different stories, but it was just so fun and really wonderful to like be able to read a story, feel very satisfied with the ending of each one, because I do feel like it can be really hard to give a short story like that and you feel content with where it stopped at and not long for more. Grant, I wanted more. But you know how there's just that time where you read a short story and you're like, this was just cut short, and you're not happy where things ended because you're like, this would be 10 times better if it could have kept going. And I didn't feel that way with these. Again, I wanted more of all of them, especially the one with the delinquent, my ultimate favorite. But all of them had strong endings. I love how they were all open-ended. But the thing I think I appreciate the most is that all of the young women are the ones that made the choice of stepping out to let the guy know, hey, I like you. Hey, I want to kiss you. I love that because I am just in general, I'm not one of those people, maybe even like when it comes to romance, that I'm just not going to put my feelings out there because I don't want to be rejected. I don't want my feelings to be rejected. So I admired all of these ladies' courage in being able to say, hey, I feel a certain way for you. I like you. I want to kiss you or whatever it is, and not worry about being rejected. Though this girl here had a wonderful quote that I remember actively writing down because she was like, I don't know if I should confess to him or not. But she's like, no, regret is part of life. Better to regret trying something than to regret never doing anything at all. Let's go for it. And so she ends up confessing to him. And it was so cute. I love how she's like, I saw you blush one day and it was so cute I nearly died. And his reaction is so funny. They were so cute. They were so adorable. So I would definitely say, and the kisses, because I just saw it, the kisses are swoon worthy. There's some swoon in each of these. So yeah, what I was going to say is if you're looking for a collection of short stories that are all centered on romance, this short collection, this one is it. Also, if you're looking for an introduction to the manga's, latest work of Fall in Love You, Fall to Angels, this is a great way to do it. After I read this, I got really excited to read Fall in Love You, Fall to Angels. And even though I had read the first 2 chapters, wasn't overly hooked, I felt confident that as the story went on, that I would deeply love it. To be determined, since I haven't read Fall in Love You, Fall to Angels just yet, like the full physical volume that I have. But yeah, hopefully I will. I feel confident I will because this was so wonderful. And I'm really glad that 7 Seas gave us this manga. For number 4, I feel like people are going to be really surprised that I'm putting it on this list. And that is Heroine Saint. No, I'm an all works mate and proud of it. I did a first impression of this manga, so I won't ramble too much about this. But ultimately, what I loved about this is that it surprised me. It's about this young woman here who, in her past life, I guess you would say, she sees a maid with her family. They go to visit somebody and they see this maid working and she finds her so graceful and wonderful and is like, I want to be a maid when I grow up. Her parents sort of like appease her like, oh yeah, well, sure, you can just indulge this little whim. But the whim never went away. She ends up actually flying somewhere, or I think it was flying to England to actually get training. But a tragic accident strikes and she ends up being reincarnated into this otome game, but she doesn't even know or realize she's been reincarnated until she has like an awakening, we'll say between the ages of 5 and 10, somewhere in there. She has this awakening. She realizes like in her past life, she wanted to be a maid. And in this otome game, there's a lot of different maids. And she's like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to be what I've always dreamed about. What she doesn't realize though, when she has this awakening, she sort of gets some OP powers. And that's where the narrator comes in and says the most snarkiest of things about our main girl, Melody, because she doesn't realize. She's like, oh, this is just part of my magical abilities, which is a normal thing in this world. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm going to use it to be an all works maid. And so begins this story. And I really honestly feel if you love Tear Moon Empire with Mia and all of the shenanigans and the snarky narrator who points out the obvious when Mia in that manga doesn't realize the obvious, you will really love this. I know that Mia's story is not necessarily like an isekai or reincarnation story because, it's more of a time loop where she goes back in time, but this manga was hilarious. I mean, it really feels on par with Mia and her shenanigans. And I think that's why I enjoy this, especially the narrator, because the narrator be saying things and you could tell the narrator is just frustrated that Melody just doesn't get it. But also that Melody is just not worried about being the heroine. She ain't worried about being the center or any of these other titles that would be well received and are very prestigious. No, she's like, let me be this all works maid. Like she gets giddily excited when she finds a listing to be an all works maid, meaning she doesn't do just the cooking or just the cleaning or working in one certain area of the house. She takes care of the entire house, which is what she has always dreamed of doing. And I can't remember who the lady is that she goes to work for, is like, are you sure this is okay? She's like, it's fine. I'm having the time of my life. And so I just was here for the ride. This series honestly is definitely making it on to this top 5 debut list because of how surprised I was. I just wanted to try it because I saw nobody talking about it. Nobody really seemed excited about it. I don't even know anybody else that's reading it besides myself. I was like, well, I want to help spotlight it because I'm thankful that Seven Seas gave us this. And that ultimately became me genuinely being thankful that they did. Not just that they licensed shoujo, but they licensed a shoujo manga that I had such a fun time reading and really, really enjoyed. So if you want more thoughts on this and expanded, definitely check out my first impression video. And if you're looking for an OP heroine who's unconventional in the sense of just loving a low-paying, low-term kind of job, and again, you want that snarky narrator, this is such a fun one to check out. It is a blast. And I have volume 2 on my TBR. I'm currently finishing up a series and I'm looking forward to reading it because I need more of the shenanigans that happen and unfold in this series. For number 5, I deeply love this series, and that is Diary of a Female Lead. In fact, I believe I don't know if it was in that same video that I did with Heroine Saint, but if I can, I'll leave it linked in the corner because I also did a first impression of this. No, it's not. I did it with Colette, and the person I loved asked me to die in my sister's steed. So yes, I will leave it linked in the corner. This manga is so wonderful. I call it my shoujo fluff, especially after reading volume 2. I was about to start rambling about what I feel about this manga, why I feel like it's rightfully deserved on this list. But to give some context about what the book is about, because that's important to do, it is about our main female lead, Aoi, and she has just never experienced love. Not even a first love. It's not like she hasn't wanted to experience her own romance, but she just feels like she's not the main character in this story. She's just a side character in a shoujo manga, living out life. She doesn't have any friends, but she has a wonderful big brother who is friends with everybody, very handsome, very good on the basketball team, has all the main character energy, more or less. And anyway, he loves his little sister, and he's like, you know what? We are gonna help you get a boyfriend. And she's like, what? He's like, not only will we help you get a boyfriend, we're gonna use shoujo manga as our guide to help you get a boyfriend. And she ends up finding her first love in this manga. Things happen, unfold. I really love this guy here. It was a fantastic first volume. I was honestly really touched by this, not only because I love the story itself, but there was just something so grand, wonderful, and powerful about Aoi and her brother using shoujo manga as a guide for her love life. Do I recommend that? Not necessarily, no, but I felt like it showed the power of shoujo manga. I have been deeply impacted by a variety of shoujo exclusively. I mean, yes, definitely manga. Haikyuu changed my life. I love manga, and I love seeing how manga has changed me as an individual, but there have been many shoujo series that I have read that Queen's Quality is one that instantly comes to mind of this series helped me. Fruits Basket is another one. It helped change me and helped me grow as an individual. That just something in my brain that is maybe, or something in my life that has held me back, a mindset that I had or a view I had, and I was able to read these mangas, see these female leads do these incredible things that maybe I felt like I couldn't do, or maybe like with Fruits Basket, I related so strongly to a heroine that there has been no other manga that I've ever read that I've related as deeply as I did to our heroine in that manga. Just nothing. The only one that comes close for number 2 is definitely Takahashi at the Bike Shop. I think it's what it is, or in the Bike Shop. But that would be number 2. These manga have just helped me feel validated. They've helped me find freedom in, again, just breakthroughs in my life that I love seeing, even if it was on a much fluffier and wholesome level, that Aoi was using manga, seeing things in it. Like, one of the things that really stood out is always like, man, yeah, it'd be nice to find romance. But she's like, when you look at shoujo manga, she's like, before they even find romance, they have friends first. And that is ultimately what she wanted. And shoujo manga showed her that before she could find love, she needs friends. And I don't know, all of that just really resonated with me and maybe my manga journey / experience, and how I'm just thankful to find a manga that showcases how beautiful and powerful shoujo is. And I have loved it so much because of that. And I love the romance. Like, volume 2 was fantastic. I read it recently. Absolutely wonderful. It continues to get better, but that aspect of shoujo manga being life-changing is there. It hasn't changed. And so I feel like this was one of my favorite reads from last year because of that alone. But even outside of that, the romance is sweet. Aoi is a very wonderful character, and I love we're going to see her character develop and see her grow and fall in love. And it's going to be a wonderful, beautiful wonderful time with its ups and downs that typically these stories have. I'm seated here and I love it. I would highly recommend if you're looking for a story that does, showcase, like I was saying, the power of shoujo manga, but you're looking for a female lead that maybe is a little bit rough around the edges in the beginning, but you know that character growth is going to be a steady thing throughout the series, and wanting to see her grow and change as an individual, and the romance being so fluffy and so sweet and so wholesome. I honestly can't wait to see where the series goes, and that is true for all of these, though except for the short story collection because that's already complete. But I loved all of these manga and I feel they are wonderful and would highly recommend each of them to you. But I would love to hear from you, friends. What do you feel are some of your favorite 7 Seas manga? Whether they debuted last year or they are ongoing series, because there's definitely some ongoing ones that didn't release last year, but I am super enjoying. So let me know down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!